it was we could say a risky decision to move our headquarters to the US and changing models, because we had to disconnect from one geographic and region and connect to another. That's not something that happens from one day to the other. So you have to be aware that you're going to cross the desert for a few months. Luckily, we had some cash from our own operations that allowed us to transit that desert. And right now we're in the middle of, let's say, getting traction in the US through industry leaders.
Hi, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Brian Mattocks. I am here today with Jordi Negre. Jordi, welcome. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you're up to with the Dantex Group?
Yes, sure. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. I founded Dantex Group 22 years ago in Europe, in Barcelona, Spain. And recently, approximately 1 year ago, I decided to move our headquarters from Europe into the US. And that's a challenging process in which it's taking all my time, effort, dedication, and some sleepless nights.
So that's a bold decision. What inspired that move?
Europe seems like a very consolidated marketplace, but in fact, it's very fragmented. Different languages, different regions, different even currencies. Because with the Brexit, you have the pound, and then you have the euro. So the path to growth, it's pretty difficult. It seems like a homogeneous market, but it's not that homogeneous. And with our limited resources and dedication, we decided that the US market was much bigger, and the culture of adoption of our products, services, the platform that we have, it's much more understood. And the venture capital ecosystem makes it also like the best place to grow, to scale, and eventually make an exit plan.
Gotcha. So a part of that decision to move was the decision to raise as well, right? So tell me a little bit more about that. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that we do have to be successful with organic growth. But if you want to put your company in a different level, at some point you're going to need external funding. And although we're not in the best years of fundraising, and I've been reviewing and reading some articles recently that do not create a super cool expectation for 2024. This might change in the future, and we will, be in a different situation. And once we need, let's say, big money to make a potential growth and aggressive expansion. The other day I read an article in which the same SaaS companies, the valuation in the US was 30% more than in Europe. The same company, the same kind of company, the same metrics, KPIs. The valuation in the US was 30% more. So if you are the owner of a SaaS company, by raising money or selling the money in the US, or selling your company in the US, you would get 30% more of your own valuation.
Right.
So all those, let's say, trends, it's reinforcing that the decision that we took made a lot of sense.
Gotcha. So you're in a fragmented market now. You're moving to more consolidated and a higher valuation just by virtue of jumping across the pond here. When you talk about what really makes the business and what you're trying to do hard to market, we spoke previous to this, and you've made a couple very interesting decisions along the way. Kind of all of these things are coming around at once, but you've also moved from a project-based model to much more of a SaaS model as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can help our listeners a little bit, give us the 50,000 feet on the product and who its target market is. That'll help us then kind of dig into a little bit more of the weeds there.
Sure. Yeah, and the change of the financial model makes sense with the change of the technological approach that we did, or improvement that we did. So 5 years ago, we were basically providing a front-end solution. That means that companies like, for example, Siemens, would purchase a project from us and they would host it in their own premises. Okay. And they would have the whole solution for them, one shot. They would buy the project and they would host it and they would run it. A few years later, we developed a backend. A backend, it's a very powerful tool that allows that the front end has much more return based on different use cases and different continuous updates of contents. And that's when the SaaS model comes into the game, because the combination of the front end and the back end system that we already have, it takes us much more adequately to the SaaS environment. And also, following the discussion that we had before, in terms of valuation and in terms of exit plans, SaaS companies are much more attractive to investors or potential buyers than just project-based companies.
Gotcha. You don't have to prove your pipeline as much because you're working on residuals.
Yeah, something that it's not at that. I mean, easier said than done. Because yes, I mean, the theory says that once you have a customer, you would get the typical ARR concept. But of course, to get the first clients on board, it's not always easy. In comparison to have like smaller projects would be an easier task, but less valuation and less potential growth.
So what is your strategy for customer acquisition at this point for the new customers? I mean, you've switched your business model. You're switching your headquarters location. You're looking for that deeper valuation. You've upgraded your tech platform. It seems like you've now essentially shuffled all of the pieces together. How has that impacted your growth strategy, and how are you expecting to get first round of clients or your 8th round of clients, whatever the case may be?
Yeah. It was we could say a risky decision to move our headquarters to the US and changing models, because we had to disconnect from one geographic and region and connect to another. That's not something that happens from one day to the other. So you have to be aware that you're gonna cross the desert for a few months. Okay. Luckily, we had some cash from our own operations that allowed us to transit that desert. And right now we're in the middle of the let's say getting traction in the US through industry leaders. So our philosophy at short term is to sell directly to end clients with people that have warm contacts in their own network, so that we can have like a pretty much an easy access or fast access to key decision makers. The second round in a few months will be indirect sales, which will be channel partners, which at long term, it's going to bring us the typical hockey stick of the SaaS indirect approach.
Yeah. So your channel partner strategy, and kind of where you're at now, right? Right now, you're just doing personal contacts and leveraging those. Then you're migrating into the channel partner strategy. How do you expect to start that? What does that look like? How are you going to identify those channel partners? What are you doing to start to build those relationships? Because I imagine that's going to be starting pretty quick here.
Yeah, it's a very challenging goal that we have. Not easy, because when we are talking about channel partners, being a MarTech company, we can either have channel partners that are more aligned with the advertising side of the business, and at the other end with the technology side. So in between, there are a lot of gray areas. So the umbrella of channel partners can be divided in like 7 different segments of channel partners, depending on if they are more technologically savvy or more marketing oriented. So again, this is not our, let's say, short-term focus right now, because that requires, like, I would call it like a 2-phase sales scenario, because you have to find the channel partners and then you have to evangelize, educate them, and then they have to sell to the end client. So it's a very scalable model, but it's a little bit slower than the direct one. So right now, in order to get traction as fast as possible, direct, it's critical.
So what is your what are the sort of moving tactical pieces for that direct strategy that you're taking now?
I'm in the middle of the process of attracting talent that they have like an entrepreneurship spirit, that they want to join a company that has a proven track record. It's not a startup, but in terms of the geographical aspect, it is a startup. So it's not an easy task to attract that talent because nowadays everybody wants both aspects of the work of the job description, right? The entrepreneurship attractiveness, but at the same time security, and that does not work. So you either have to choose the risk-oriented venture or the secure one. And we are right now, like I said, a geographical startup. So I'm working hard to find entrepreneurs that want to join my venture in the US.
Gotcha.
And we have to roll our sleeves and start getting traction in the US soil, in the US market. And eventually, on a second round, we will be able to, let's call it professionalize with, let's say, more standardized sales professionals and other kinds of roles in the organization. But at the beginning, it's like attracting people to the project that have the same mindset that I might have, which is like starting a new business in the US.
Yeah. So the phase one here, this process you're going through now to do direct selling, is basically you're trying to find folks that are going to go out there and beat the bushes, and make those relationships happen and start the direct selling process. You don't have a ton of. Have you done a lot of market testing, I guess, when it comes to it? Because it sounds like you've got the background from the old business, but this new model, again, you've got so many new things, new location, new business model. How are you going to educate those folks you're bringing on to go about that sales process?
Yeah, it's a very good point, because the go-to-market is very different. So we didn't not only change the pricing module and the geographical aspect, but the cultural and the go-to-market concepts are radically different. Well, not radically, but very different from one region to the other. So in fact, it's not that I have to educate them, it's that they have to identify as industry leaders which is the best go-to-market for their specific segments. Gotcha. So again, I'm not looking for traditional employees to do whatever I tell them to do. I'm looking for people to suggest what is the best approach for the government sector, or for the manufacturing one, or for the fintech, which all of them have different go-to-markets. So again, I'm not trying to recruit people to execute, but I'm trying to attract talent, senior people, to define with me which is the best go-to-market strategy based on their knowledge and based on the fact that they are Americans and I'm not. Right. So they have to know more than me in some aspects regarding the US operations.
Yeah. That starting from zero approach, though, is really refreshing, right? I think it's going to be interesting to figure out how you're going to collect that data as you go and dial that into, subsequent iterations of the strategy, right? You can't just you can't bring somebody in to come up with a good strategy and then not do the testing side of that as well, right? And so how are you going to collect that data, and what are you going to do with it, and how's it going to inform the business moving forward? I think becomes an interesting conversation.
Yes, it's been already a few months that we've been testing the market. And at the end, although our platform is agnostic and it can address all the vertical segments out there, I do think that once we have traction in some verticals, we will have to focus on those. Yeah. In order to get referrals and be experts in those segments. So we don't, in every, let's say, in a geographical segment, you could find like 17 different verticals. We don't need to be in all those 17, although the technology would allow us to do that. Right. So in order to get traction and grow rapidly, The best way to do it is once you get traction in one segment, focus, and then reinforce, recruit more people to exploit that business line.
Right. Niche down and then expand
Correct.
it from there. Gotcha. Awesome. So I think what I really want to do now is I want to set the hook for us to get back on a call in a future episode and hear how it's going, because the things you learn along the way here are going to be absolutely critical to the folks that are also in situations where they're making these changes. So I guess that leads me to sort of the one of my questions here, which is for the folks that are interested in learning more about what you've got going on, how should they reach out to you? What does that look like? Who should reach out to you at this point? Because it seems like you're still in a lot of formative phases. What kind of conversations are you looking to have?
It depends on the folks and their roles, but I would say that the main touch point would be our website, which is dantexgroup.com.
Uh-huh.
And we have listed the main key executives that we have on our management team, and everyone has a role assigned, of course. And there are people that are responsible of the fundraise, and there are other individuals that are responsible for sales, both direct and indirect. And there are other people that are responsible for operations. And that's the main, let's say, three legs that we could describe, right? That which would be sales, fundraise, and platform delivery.
Gotcha. So website is sort of mission one. Now, again, you're probably, the learning is coming fast and furious at this point as you reposition and poise, approach the market a little bit differently. So when I ask you, like, what are the three biggest things that you've learned in your journey so far? The natural inclination is probably going to be like, well, I learned this in the last week. But the things that we're looking for are the kinds of bits of information that would help somebody that's maybe newer in the marketing space, or somebody who has not yet even come close to the kind of problems that you're working to solve right now. What are the three biggest sort of takeaways from your journey throughout your career so far that you can share with the listeners?
Well, in the B2B segment in which we are, we could confirm that if you have done business in Germany, you could do business in the US. I mean, the requirements of those corporations are more or less similar. But then the second conclusion would be that the go-to-market, it's very different, like we discussed. And nobody teach you how to do it, because the world has very different, let's say, geographic areas, and every geographical area behaves very differently. So one, it's confirming that the product makes sense, it adds value. That's the main thing. Second is adapting, which is not exactly pivoting, but it's like pivoting geographically to adapt that pitch or that, let's say, cultural evangelization about what you do to another culture. And third, it's that although all the signs confirm that we have done the right decision and we're in the right track, the conclusion is that this is going to be tougher, but bigger at the end. So the curves of growth eventually it will take us a little bit more time than expected to penetrate the market. But at the same time, the potential growth and figures for the long run can be much higher than the ones that we projected at the beginning.
Gotcha. I want to thank you for your time today, Jordi. It's been great to have you on the show, and I definitely want to circle back when you have some additional learnings here, and I want to be able to share them with our listeners.
Thanks to you, Brian. I hope that this next call is not in 2 years, but in a few months, so that we have relevant news to share.
That'd be awesome.